The sun's surf and gentle sounds of crashing waves against the sandy shores may bring to mind a welcome respite from daily life. But as with human surfers, the beach is life for some tidal animals. There's a whole world of creatures living and dying in the swash and backwash of the briny tide, where the land meets the sea. But learning to live in this unique ecosystem is how one snail makes its way in life, death, and taxonomy. Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal info. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos.
And today we're talking about an aquatic olive garden. But more on that later.
Olive Garden's my favorite restaurant of all time.
So this must be your favorite animal of all time.
Sure. I mean, it doesn't look as delicious as bottomless breadsticks and chicken and gnocchi soup, but we can work with it.
So I'm interested to find out what you've called this thing because I couldn't find any, colloquial names. This specific species. There's some for the whole genus and the subfamily. We'll talk about that. What are we talking about?
Oh yeah, I don't have one specifically for the species, but anyway, we're talking about the Olivella semistriata. Olivella semistriata.
So I guess the genus are called dwarf olives.
Yeah, they're the dwarf olive snail.
So I threw out my notes. I call it the olive snail.
That's exactly what I've called it throughout my notes.
Perfect.
What do you know? The olive snail. Although there's the entire genus is olive snails.
Yeah.
The taxonomy is gonna be nuts. The dwarf olive is a pretty good nickname, but here's some other ones. The olive nudibranch. Extending an olive nudibranch of peace. Maybe it's the olive nudibranch of peace, because nudibranches are like gastropods.
And an olive branch
And
is
an olive branches. Get it?
phrase.
Do you get
Yeah,
it?
it's good.
I'm glad you got it. So the next one is the swash surfing snatcher.
That's good.
Yeah, we're going to talk about swash surfing later on, or you'll talk about it. But yeah, that's all I've got. Other than that, we're just going to call it the olive snail.
Okie dokie.
All right, here we go. It's in a little-known kingdom on the far side of a fair country, and that kingdom is known as Kingdom Animalia. Of course it is. The phylum is Mollusca, so it's a mollusk, along with cephalopods and clams and all kinds of neat things. The class is Gastropoda, which means stomach foot. I always love saying that. And there are 3 clades to follow this up. In no particular order, they are Caenogastropoda, Hypsogastropoda, and Neogastropoda.
Interesting.
Yeah, clades. Not all animals have them, but this tiny snail does. The superfamily is the Incredibles. Get it?
No.
Please? Please?
Oh, again? We did this.
Oh, did I do that already?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. I have old man brain.
Same thing happened last time where I was like, "What? How is this The Incredibles?"
And it got you. It should be so obvious. They're the super.
Well, because I'm
family.
thinking about the animal, and I'm thinking you're making a joke about the animal.
No, it's the super family. But yeah, I'm quickly devolving into dad brain as I transition into this phase of life. So I'll just make the same exact jokes over and over again. So the superfamily is actually Olivoideae. The E and the A, the E before the A. And then the family is Olivellidae with the A before the E. And then the genus is Olivella. The subgenus, we've even got one of those, is Pachyolivia, like it's an elephant olive. And the species is Semistriata. So the binomial nomenclature is the name of the animal, Olivella semistriata.
I'm assuming that means kind of striped olive.
I will go into exactly why it's called semistriata.
Okay.
But first, since we're in the business of naming things, it's time for my favorite part of the show, critter groups. Part of the show where I ask you a question, and that question is the same every time. What is the name of a group of these animals, or the term of venery for these animals, or the collective noun? If you saw a group of snails, would you call them A, a squalor of snails, B, a paste of snails, C, an escargatoire of snails, or D, a shell of snails?
Escargatoire? Excuse me?
Yeah. Escargatoire.
Ugh. What a red herring that is. Unless it's the right thing. As we've come to expect, the people that do the terms of venery are out of their minds. And they're the least consistent people of all time.
That's because it's not the same people.
It would be so like these people. This cabal.
Yeah, you have this idea of this secret organization that just wants to mess us up in particular, and biology
this
students.
Cabal of absolute lunatics would just throw a weird French-sounding word once, and only once, into the terms of venery. It seems so out of left field that it just might be the right answer. What were the first two?
Squalor and paste.
You've used squalor before.
Oh my goodness.
Paste is good. I'm gonna have to go to the lighthouse that is Escargatar or whatever it was.
Escargatar. That's what Eric Clapton uses. It's his favorite instrument.
No, it is. Isn't that for kids?
Escargatar.
An Esquire guitar?
Yeah. I mean, an Esquire guitar, yeah. Or Squire, not Esquire.
Squire,
just
that's
Squire.
right. It's not a lawyer guitar.
This is Fender. Esquire.
A Squire guitar, I see.
Yeah. So you're going with escargatoire?
It can't be this, but it can't be anything else.
It can't be this?
That's where I'm going with this.
Are you limiting the imagination of this secret naming cabal that you've invented?
I'm saying from a moral standpoint, it shan't be this.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Well, you're absolutely correct. The answer is escargatoire.
I hate them.
That is. Do you honestly think I could have made that up? I guess I could have.
That's why I was drawn to it. It just makes it's infuriating.
I thought
that they would even go with this random French word. Like they put another suffix on an already French word.
I mean, it's spelled escargatoire.
Yeah.
But I know it's toi. I thought about adding another complicated French word in there just to throw you off, but then I was like, that might really draw attention to the Frenchness of it. So I want to
What you would have had to have done was just say the French word for every single thing you just said.
Squalor, paste, escargatoire, and shell. I don't know how to Frenchify that. Le shell. There we go. Well, good job. You did it.
What a bunch of crazies.
But let's talk about what this guy looks like. I mean,
okay.
It's a snail. We all know what a snail looks like. But snails take on many different shapes and forms, so we have to be specific. So the olive snail has a sharp, pointed shell. So it's not that classic-looking, big, round one that land snails have. This one is very streamlined. The bottom half is smooth and shiny. The whole thing's made out of calcium carbonate. But the top half is not so smooth and shiny. And it has these longitudinal grooves, meaning up and down, where latitudinal is, horizontal, left and right, because it's like a ladder. I always remember that. And these grooves along the top half are called striae, which is why it's called semi-striata. So it's basically the olive snail grooves on half of it. The grooves on half of it snail.
Okay.
So there's the deep and rich history of this name. So the shell itself has a large whorl. WHORL. I mean, I guess I say whirl, but I mean, you might think of WHIRL, and that's not. No, it's whorl.
Whorl.
Coral. And that's the spiral part of a shell. So if you picture Gary the snail from SpongeBob, the spiral part, if it's the curls are tight and close together, then that would be a small whorl. But if they're far apart, it'd be a large whorl. And so Gary has he's got a medium whorl, where our friend the olive snail over here has a large one. The curls are far apart relatively. The actual snail part. So we've just been describing the shell, but there's a living animal inside there. It's like the snail, like most snails, is like a bowl of brownish gray snot, and it has a propodium, which is called the front part of the foot, that makes its unique feeding behavior possible, which I know you'll talk about later. Other than that, I'll leave the rest of the major fact in terms of its appearance as a snot bowl, and instead ask the dreaded question: how big is it?
How big is it? Welcome to the beloved Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show. The part of the show when we present the animal size and dimensions in relatable terms through a quiz that's fun for the entire family. It's also part of the show that's introduced by you when you send in audio of yourself saying, singing, or chittering the words Measure Up into ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. We have a new Measure Up intro.
Hooray!
As we return for the last time to the Nantahala Forest Saga. That is a collection of Measure Ups sent in under duress by Carlos's family.
It's a discography. You have to listen to it from start to finish to really get the whole message.
This one is actually the third of the series, but I switched it because we had just done Henry 2 times ago.
Oh, this is another Henry? This is not from the Nantahala National Forest. This is a different time when I held family hostage in order to get Measure Ups.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Oh, you're right. The Nantahala National Forest starts with track 3. So there must be other ones.
I got it. I'm sorry. I'll label these next time.
It's okay. This one's actually called Henry Japanese Loud. So let's listen to that. Without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show.
I'm excited.
それからその赤いのも見ててください。
Measure up!
Do you have any idea what those words mean?
That was another just level of energy unheard of from that man.
So the first part, when he's speaking Japanese, is kind of more of his normal energy.
Yeah, maybe even less so. And then he just explodes with WWF energy. And what he was saying, I'm pretty sure, is the only phrase in Japanese that he remembers from school, which is, I would like to see the red one over there, please. Which is incredibly useful if you happen to be...
What a specific phrase.
Navigating just the urban areas of Japan.
All I remember is Giritama, which means...
Gudetama, which means
sad egg.
Sad egg. I remember... これは私の新しい自動車ですか? Which means, that's my new car.
It's so intense.
That's because they're if you watch samurai movies, they're all intense.
If you watch samurai movies, a movie about Japanese warriors, all Japanese people
are intense. That's exactly how a traditional samurai would talk about his new car also.
All right, let's get into it before we get into trouble. Length. It was incredibly difficult to find any measurements for these creatures. They're clearly small, but there's apparently some controversy, as in like they couldn't tell the difference between two different species because they couldn't identify a species until it was a certain size. So then they assumed there were two different species, but they were actually one species that didn't look a certain way until it grew past 10 millimeters. But what it seems is that these guys are between 10 and 12 millimeters. They might be up to 15 millimeters, but we're in that range. We're going to call it 10 millimeters or 0.3 inches. So, how many olive snails go into the length of the longest surfboard?
Huh. That's got to be pretty long.
Well, here's a hint. It's actually a good hint. The surfboard was made in Huntington Beach, California, and it was ridden by 66 people in a demonstration.
That was an amazing hint because I was about to say like 12 feet sounds right.
Both of the hints I have for these are very good.
This is unheard of that these hints are actually helping me.
I think it's happened once before.
Wow, so this is a 66 people. That is, I really want to see this. Well, then I have to say it's probably at least 2 feet per person that could ride on it, right? That sounds about right. Unless they were all like stacked in on there like sardines. Or Pringles. More like Pringles, probably. But we'll say 2 feet per person. So I'm going to say 132. I'll throw some cheddar on there for the front and back of the board. And I'll say 140 feet.
Okay, final answer?
Yes, final answer. Oh, wait.
Wait, How many snails?
It's 140 feet. I got to figure out how many snails go in. And so 0.3. It's a little bit more than 0.25, which is a quarter of an inch. Oh, wow. I guess I'm not going to do this in my head. 5,040.
5,040 snails?
Yes.
The correct answer is 1,280 snails. I think where you went wrong
was the guessing?
was assuming that the 66 people were single file.
Oh, did they do like a pyramid or something like that?
No, some were standing next to each other. It was also a wide board.
Oh, yep. You've reached the limits of my imagination.
You found the like approximate square footage.
When I can't fathom that a board might be wide to accommodate people.
But yeah, the board was 42 feet long.
Yeah, I mean, a 140-foot board seems like impossible to ride a wave on, but I was like, strange things are happening.
Strange things. Okay.
Yep.
Since you love it so much, we're going to talk about the super family.
The Incredibles. My favorite is Dash because he's very fast.
We're going to talk about the size of the super family. It's not 4 people in the Incredibles. It's 5 genera. It's actually 5 people. So yeah, exactly the same because I forgot about the baby.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the baby too.
So
Jack.
The superfamily Olividae has 5 genera. So how many Olividae-sized groupings go into the amount of olives that it takes to make a liter of olive oil? So 5 is your unit. And how many of that go into the amount of olives it takes to make a liter of olive oil?
Oh, this is going to take me all of a day to figure out.
Yeah. Well, here's a hint. It's very good. Extra virgin olive oil is produced with 6 kilograms of olives.
Ooh, so that's about a little over 12 pounds.
So there's a huge range depending on the size of the olive in your 6 kilograms. We're going to go with the upper end. So you're trying to think about smaller on average olives.
An olive weighs an ounce. So if it takes, and you said extra virgin?
Yeah.
And this is what we're going with?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Why are you laughing? What?
Just because the onus of this part of the show is to give you a better picture of how many, make it a more relatable term. And we're going to take something like the number 5 amount of genera, and we're going to relate that to a whole lot of olives. And that's just funny. That's just funny to me.
This isn't the first time you've done this.
Well, the only reason I've done this is because these scientists are not writing down the weights of things.
There was one time where
in a place on the internet I can find.
you gotta surf the dark web for that. But I think there was one time where you had me try to figure out the number, like how many times the number of genera of some kind of animal go into how long it takes for something to happen. It's like entirely different measurements and units and metrics.
You got to get creative when you've got, one dimension to work with.
Okay, so I'm going to say, since I think that these are an ounce, I'm going to say that means that 16 olives go into a pound. And you said 6 kilograms, so that's about 13 pounds. So that means that 208 olives were used in the liter, if my calculations are correct. It's very likely that an olive is nowhere near an ounce, probably half an ounce or something like that, but we're going to do an ounce. So 208 olives divided by 5, which is 41.6. So we're going to round it up to a good, healthy 42, which is also the answer to the universe in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
42 what?
42 genera, or super families, sorry.
Oh, I see.
Go into the number of olives it takes to make a liter of pure virgin olive oil.
So the correct answer leads me to believe that olives are much, much lighter than an ounce.
Oh, darn it.
The correct answer is 1,600.
Oh, my goodness.
It takes about 8,000 olives to make a liter of olive oil. But it swung between like 5,500 to 8,000. So it was a big swing.
Wow, yeah. I always get thrown off by how heavy an ounce is.
Yeah. Ounce is pretty hefty.
I don't hold like gold bullion often, so I don't really have that kind of heft in my tactile memory.
Well, that's all we got.
Okay.
What a very strange measure of it.
It sure was. I got a couple of fast facts, and then we can move on to the major one. And they're really fast facts, because there is not a lot of info on this guy that you're not about to talk about. So they like to live, these snails, olive snails, they like to live on sheltered beaches with relatively calm waves and drastic changes in tidal in the tides, and they also tend to live on the American West Coast, so both Americas. So it goes all the way from the Gulf of California, which is not in California. It's in Mexico. And it goes all the way down the West Coast to Peru. That's where they live.
Cool.
And that's all I got.
Let's talk about major facts. Show me the major fact. The fact is that olive snails, like other snails, utilize viscous mucus for a lot of different purposes.
Yum. Me too.
All snails are covered in a slimy mucus that helps them slide across surfaces with ease. Slowly, but easily. But that's not all olive snails do with...
That's not all olive snail.
That's not all. I wrote she because I was watching a video that had gendered a snail, and it was a woman.
Aren't they hermaphroditic?
They might be.
We talked about this with the African land snail. I think most snails are hermaphroditic.
Well, he or she, they is better anyway because I'm talking about all snails.
True.
All olive snails.
Fast facts in all olive snails.
Yeah.
About all olive snails.
So that's not all they do with this snail snot. Olive snails are what is called suspension feeders, which means they get nutrients from particles floating around in the water. Crabs and shrimp and other bottom feeders do this too by basically like balling up some sand, sucking the nutrients out of it, and then getting rid of it. Have you ever seen like those crabs that like make little burrows, and then there's like these little sand balls all around their burrows, sometimes in like a spiral pattern?
Yeah.
That's because they're like sucking all the nutrients out of these sand balls and then depositing them in this nice little neat ball.
They should make little snowmen, little sandmen
They
underwater.
should. If only they were more creative.
Yeah.
So anyway, to do this, the olive snail buries its shell and body into the ground and extends two appendages that come out of their propodiums, like you had mentioned.
The front part of the foot.
Yeah. So there's these appendages come off of the front part of the foot, and the foot in a snail is basically everything.
Yeah, it's just
except
stomach
for what's
and a
inside
foot.
the snail. They extend these appendages, and mucus from their body creates a net that gathers up passing sediment. So it's like when you wash your hands with soap, and then you like spread your fingers apart, or if you've ever like done the thing where you like put your hands together and then like make a triangle, and then there's a bubble that you can blow.
Yeah.
Basically, it's the same thing. It's like they're taking their snot, their body mucus, like making a little, sail out of it with these appendages. So as the sand and sediment and stuff passes through it, it gets collected in this little net. Then when they've got a good haul, they pull up the snotty net full of sand and nutrients and clean it all and suck it all into their mouth parts.
Yum. I like this story.
But olive snails use their mucus for more sophisticated locomotion. Well, mucus as in not just the mucus, but also their weird little appendages. So when an olive snail is finished with an area of the beach, or if they need to make like a quick getaway, they spread their wings and fly, kind of.
That's nuts.
Olive snails have two flaps that they tuck in against their sides when they crawl around. When they dig, they pull these flaps over the front part of their shell to sort of like grease their path through this sand tunnel. Mm-hmm. So it's like a little sock that they pull over their shell and just kind of wriggle on down into the sand.
A mucus sock for your shell just for wriggling.
Yeah.
I like it.
However, they can also flip onto their backs and fan out these flaps into an umbrella shape to catch the surf, or what did you call it before? It's backwash. They live in a
Swash surfing.
Swash. That's right. Yeah. So is swash like, it's like the frothy tide, right?
I think so.
So this allows them to quickly glide to new feeding areas. These particular the binomial name we're talking about, are not the only tidal snail to be able to surf like this, but they're the only ones that do it with this umbrella shape. There's several different species that all do this surfing thing with different like shapes of their, I almost said mantle, but their foot.
Yeah. Remember, this is all with their foot.
Yeah, so like if you had this little appendage that could like turn into a giant sail, maybe you could, surf around as well. But you're stuck using a board like an idiot.
42-foot board.
But yeah, the Pacific Coast is not just a place for human surfers.
That's got to be kind of cute to watch.
Yeah, I guess.
This little snail just like kind of using a rudder-ish thing to scoot along, to putz along the tidal coast.
A rudder?
Yeah, I mean, it's like it doesn't function like a rudder, but it looks like it. I mean, it's just like a... Yeah,
it looks like an umbrella to me.
But it's like underwater. You usually think of that like that kind of stuff being above water.
yeah. But there are other ones that have a smaller little, like it's a foot that extends out, and then there's a small fan that's smaller than their body. So it doesn't catch as much of the current, but it helps them to surf in the same kind of way.
Does that make them the fastest snails?
It might.
That's pretty crazy. I thought
They
for a
also
second
do
you
their
were going
fair
to tell
share
me
of
they...
scooting around, and they can use these like those sails, the two like flipper things, to like to move like walking, not exactly walking, but like kind of like a turtle does. You know, it's hard to
Really?
describe that. Yeah,
Like a...
underwater.
Oh.
I didn't see, I'm sure they could do something above water, but I've seen it underwater.
Interesting. I gotta watch more videos of this. I also want to watch a video of 60 people on a surfboard.
I'm sure they did take a video.
Yeah, how could you not? So is that all you got?
That's all I got.
All right, that was the olive snail, aka Olivella semistriata. So for you out there in Podcastia, put on your mucus wiggle sock. Ride the ocean waves using your foot as an underwater sail. And don't forget to deploy your mucus nets when feeding like the Olivella semistriata here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Hey LDT listeners, in case you haven't heard, we have merch available for purchase at teespring.com/stores/taxonomytees. That's TEES. But if a worldwide pandemic doesn't have you prioritizing podcast merch, you can still support us by leaving a review on your favorite podcast app for absolutely free. Either way, we're glad to have you here. Thanks for listening.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
This was a absolute monster to try to like research, but I'm glad we did like a little ocean snot monster in this sea of big mammals that we have so far.